Hey, what is going on? This is Coach Wes with Greener Fitness, and today we are going to talk nutrition. So I busted out the nerd glasses to make me look super smart. If anyone knows what these are for, feel free to comment. But at any rate, we are going to talk about the difference between processed foods and whole foods. Now, as a society, we have been tricked. We've been told that we want to eat the foods that just taste good. The only problem with that is the majority of those foods that taste really, really good are manufactured in a lab, and they're not so good for us. They're highly addictive, and they can cause us to feel bloated because they're not easy to digest. There are a whole bunch of negative side effects. So before we go into the pros and cons of eating whole food and processed food, let's talk about which one's which. So I always get the question, what's a whole food? What's a processed food? I mean, this right here, this is a whole Poptart, so that's a whole food, right? And this avocado, it can be a process to get in there without getting the millennial hand cuts. So does that make this a processed food? The answer is no. So when it comes to food, processed food can simply be stated as things that aren't found naturally in the environment. You know, like crackers, soda, ice cream, bread, Pop-Tart. I mean, I've never seen a Pop-Tart tree. If I did, it'd be kind of cool because I am a fan of Pop-Tarts, even though they are not good for you at all. But they're things that usually man had to create or man had to modify in order to give it a longer shelf life or a better taste, or literally sometimes it's just to be more addictive so they can make more money off of you. You will keep eating it. So again, kind of looking at it, processed foods are things that are kind of more or less man-made. Now, sometimes with processed foods, we won't get too deep, but there's a term enriched. If you ever see that on food, stay away from it, because what that basically means, like if you see enriched flour or enriched wheat bread, you're like, oh, it's good for me. It's got this, it's been enriched. Basically, it means what they did is they took all the natural stuff out of it and put it back in chemically, which is why they term it enriched. So that's another term that maybe we'll dig into another time. This video we're going to try to keep fairly simple. So whole foods, on the other hand, such as this avocado right here, whole foods are things that we consume pretty much in their natural state. You know, like this avocado, for me to eat it, all I'm gonna do is cut it open, peel out the good stuff, throw it on some toast, because I love avocado toast. If you're thinking a present for me, that'd be a great one. Other things are, you know, broccoli, pretty much any fruits or vegetables could be considered, you know, in the whole food department. So a couple of things about benefits of whole foods is whole foods are easier to digest. Our body has a good time digesting them. So if you do have some digestive issues, maybe lean more towards a whole food, but sometimes that doesn't solve it either. But again, whole foods are easier to digest. We get better nutrient uptake from them, more of the healthy things that we want. You get more energy, you get less fat, you get greater mental clarity and focus, which a lot of times people neglect, but it's a great thing about eating more natural foods. Processed foods, on the other hand, are a little bit harder to digest. They usually have some toxins in them, which is crazy. I think that's legal for them, companies to manufacture food and put toxins in them, and we can still eat it. But there's a certain amount, which again, that's crazy to say, there's a certain amount of toxins that can be in our food. So again, the processed foods are toxic. They can make you feel sluggish. They can make you feel lethargic. Typically, all these high processed foods do lead to more weight gain because of the way they stress out our system and the way they produce hormones, just because our body doesn't know how to handle them properly. And they can cause a lot of other health problems. Another thing to remember is these processed foods, these are designed in a lab. They're usually designed to taste better and be addictive. Two things that neither of us need, because if it tastes better, you're gonna wanna eat more of it. And if it's addictive, it's gonna cause your body to wanna eat more, even if you don't really realize it. You know, one thing someone told me, a professor told me a while ago is, you know, sit down and eat a cookie. Odds are, a couple minutes later, you're gonna want another cookie and another cookie until you feel almost nauseous, then you might stop eating them. It's because we get so addicted to these processed sugars and chemicals that literally right when we're done eating it, we feel we need to eat another one. Now, on the flip side, sorry about that, think about if you were going to eat an apple. You know, eat an apple and then try to eat another one. Odds are, if you're eating whole-size apples, you're not gonna be able to eat more than 2 or 3, and you're just gonna feel full. So again, just kind of thinking about it as this stuff is addictive. It is not that good for us. Another thing to kind of think about with, you know, whole food versus processed food is, you know, again, made in a lab, made by God. Lab God, lab God. So just think whatever God made is probably a little better for us than whatever man made for us. So one last thing to tell you, give you a little homework assignment if you want one. If not, then don't do it. But I challenge you to go in your cupboard and start reading some of these food labels. So typically the first 5 ingredients on a label comprise about 80% of the content of the food. Now, a good rule to live by, which you've probably heard, is if you can't pronounce it, don't eat it. But let's look at this delicious Pop-Tart. So this says it has whole wheat flour, sugar, enriched flour. So again, that means they pulled out the normal flour, added a bunch of chemicals and probably give it a longer shelf life and threw it back in here. So that's 3. Then we have vitamin B2, which isn't bad, but then there is corn syrup, dextrose, bleached wheat flour, polydextrose, glycerin, and then it goes into a bunch of things that I really can't pronounce or really care to read. So what I would challenge you to do for homework assignment is go into your cupboards, see if you have a lot of stuff like this. If you do, I would say take it, check it out the door. And if you don't have any stuff like this, my advice is go and buy it. It's good for you. Even if you don't like it, start eating it. You will gain a palate for it. So that is it. That's all I got. I want to talk a little bit about the difference between processed foods and whole foods. If you have any other questions, feel free to get a hold of me. I am a certified nutrition coach as well as a trainer. You can click something down in the comment section below. I always have a link to my calendar down there, which is completely free. So if you have questions, please hop on a call with me. I'd love to talk a little more about fitness, nutrition. This is stuff that I just really love. Or if there's something else you'd like to hear a little more in depth, post it down there as well. I'll get back to you and we can, maybe make some more content on it. So I hope everyone has a great morning, day, evening, weekend, whatever you're going into whenever you caught my video. And I just want you to tell you, remember, the grass is greener on the other side.